Your Cleveland Cavaliers fall short tonight in disappointing fashion. We're going to talk about the game. We're going to talk about what we saw watching it from a fan's perspective. Then we're going to go into some technical analysis. And then we're going to talk Browns football. Believe it or not, we're going to have a short little segment about some rumors that have been swirling in the past really 90 minutes. But with all that being said, Justin, kind of a weird day, dude.
Weird 3 hours,
Right,
honestly.
literally.
We're supposed to be talking Cavs basketball, but I'm honestly way more excited to talk about the Browns rumors because, I mean, they are pretty heavy, and we are coming off of a Cavs loss. Still a little bit underhanded with Jared Allen and Karis LeVert out as of right now. Um, but we went up against, we got the kind of payback from Miami. We got them when they were down a couple of players, so they got us right back now with their full lineup. So, um, really poor first quarter, I think, is just what was to start. And then the third quarter, like, they brought it back. They brought it back in the second,
Did.
they brought it back in the fourth. They just weren't able to, had those first and third quarters been a little bit better, this game could have been a little bit tighter and more competitive. But um, on the night that Darius Garland gets to shoot the most free throws I've seen him shoot all year, he shoots poorly from the field. And yeah, I mean, obviously a lot to go into here, but just a little bit of a disappointment. But I think personally, I expected a loss, but probably just not in this fashion.
Yeah, so it looks like a 117-105 final. We kind of started a little bit early because we just had the backups in. We
Yeah,
had we had just the second team was in. We got a game tomorrow, so I'm actually shocked that JB kind of ran them as long as he did.
yeah, that's also been a little bit concerning, but
There were some concerning coaching decisions tonight. I totally agree.
yeah, JB's, granted he's a passionate coach and whatnot, gets technical foul in this game. We're arguing with the refs as always, but yeah, I mean, it's tough. He's managing. He's been managing all year with injuries. I mean, significant injuries with players that, I think right before the game came out, there was a story about him and Karis LeVert during the All Star break met and talked about what his role was going to be moving forward on this team, and gets injured and can't put that into action, and we're running out of games to put that into action. So hopefully we can get him back in here. I may not be the biggest Karis LeVert fan, but in that first quarter when it's what we were down 0-13, that would have been a heck of a time to put a guy that can get you a bucket really quickly in there, and it just wasn't there tonight. It's unfortunate. You got to rely on guys like Kevin Love and Chetty Osman to come off the bench, and unfortunately, Chetty wasn't. Kevin started off hot and was playing well, and then cooled
Chetty
down.
was terrible.
Chetty was just bad tonight. So unfortunately, that's what you got off the bench right now. Rajon Rondo, not a reliable scorer. Ed Davis, not really a reliable scorer. So Lamar Stevens, unfortunately, not a reliable scorer. And that's just the nature of it right now. We're kind of out of those reliable scores, and I think that's a big note. You look at Miami, and they have Tyler Harrow coming off the bench, and he's giving those guys double digits easy, somewhere above that 18 points per game. I think is what he's sitting at as at the or not the career, but for the season, gives them 22 tonight, and their stars just play how you'd expect. Bam, giving them 30, Jimmy giving them 24. So crazy, but it is what it is.
We got Turner in the chat. I feel what I feel what he's saying here, man. Because it's like we watch the games
Yeah,
and there's points in the game where it's like, yeah, it's like we just can't do anything. Like especially tonight, you're just sitting there thinking like this is literally the whole thing, and I'm really shocked that it's taken this long for defenses to maybe they tried earlier and they just couldn't do it. But it's like how many double teams do we see on Darius now? And it's
it,
like they'll just leave a Coro Dean Wade wide open. They
right.
don't care.
Yeah, it's not that DG's the only one that can score, but I just Evan, he's getting there. He's just a rookie. We always forget this. He's a 7-foot rookie who I think he has a lot of offensive game, but he's just not aggressive enough, or he's not consistently aggressive throughout games. I feel like he picks and chooses,
Well,
and
like tonight in the third quarter, I felt like we went like 5 or 6 minutes when he was out there, and like he didn't even touch the ball offensively. Like
yeah,
we go into these weird ruts where like we don't even have like a post presence. I feel like.
yeah, and I thought his shot attempts would definitely skyrocket with Jared out, and the potential for him to pick and pop and whatnot. But even Markkinen, Markkinen is just like the most quiet, like double digit provider on our team. Like he'll give you 15 points, and it's like,
Mhm.
did he play well? Did he just play the standard? Like you can't really knock him, but you could also just feel like, hey, does he actually provide that much of an impact in these type of games? Um,
We got some stats here, like Lowry with 15. Didn't really feel it tonight. Some nights when he gets like 15 or 20, you
it
feel it.
feels
Like,
really impactful.
yeah, it does. It's kind of there's a lot of picking and choosing. I know what I exactly know what you're saying. But one thing I learned from this game, just looking at the box score, Jared Allen is probably our best defender. Some games I feel like Mobley is like a really big presence on the defensive end because he is, but it's like if we wanted to play Miami in a 7-game series and we don't have Jared Allen, like I don't know, man. We're not we'd be hard pressed to win a game. It would be very very difficult. Now Karras could be back, a lot of stuff like that, but Bam totally owned us. You got Okoro and Dean Wade, 2 starters combining for 14 points.
Hmm.
That's just never going to get the job done. Like I feel like Dean Wade has been in and out of this groove all season where he could be aggressive and then he's into a shell all of a sudden. Like you said, Love started early. Lamar doesn't can't play any more than he plays because he has these stupid fouls that
Yeah.
he literally fouled Hero. It was a clean Hero had a clean look anyway, made the three and he fouled him. That's why he doesn't play.
Yeah.
And Jetty with 8. So it's just one of those things where Jetty couldn't even hit the rim in the first half.
Yeah, I'm not even so much as mad at Dean Wade and Okoro. Like Dean Wade, I've been trying to make the argument for him to continue to get minutes throughout the year, and he's disappointed me. He's had high moments, and yeah, everyone wants to talk about his dunk in the last week, but like really, you look at the Heat and their starters. Bam and Jimmy are the only people to get double digits, and then Duncan Robinson, PJ Tucker, and Kyle Lowry are all under 10. The problem is they know that Tyler Harrow is going to come off the bench and give them a bunch of points.
Mm-hmm.
Victor Oladipo on a good night could give them a bunch of points. Max Strus don't even know who that dude is, and he's giving them 17 points.
Right.
And for us, typically it's Chetty's coming off the bench and giving us hopefully 15, maybe. Kevin's coming off and hopefully giving us 15. And so when those two guys aren't doing anything, and Karras is hurt and Jared's hurt, and we're still trying to find our footing with lineups, it's really unpleasant and hard to get by and hard to win with.
This is true. This is the case. Zach's asking, where's Mike? We don't know where Mike is. Mike, he might be watching. You never know. Turner says, are we happy with Okoro's 9 points? The answer is
Jeff will tell you no. I will tell you it's
here's the thing. I'm not happy, but I'm not upset because like that's his average. Like he's
right.
averaging 8.9 a game. So it's
Jeff, did we ever look into, like, I don't even know. I probably back when we drafted the kid, did we look into how many points he was scoring in college?
No.
I feel like
I've been so detached from him since we drafted him. Like that's the issue.
I'm gonna look it up right now. I'm gonna say he averaged like maybe 12 points. 12.9. 12.9 points.
I watched his college highlights when we drafted him, and it was all just him driving to the rim,
layups,
like in the SEC, like
layups and probably dunks. Like
okay,
yeah. I mean, listen, I don't expect Okoro to give you a consistent double digit. Like I think I said throughout lives and Cavs encapsulated, it's that I would like for if he gives you double digit points on a consistent basis.
That's great.
That'd be very good. But I don't really expect it out of him. I expect Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Markkanen, and Jared Allen to be those guys that get you double digits. And typically, when that's the lineup and Jared Allen is healthy, that's typically the outcome, you know. And then hopefully your thought is Karis LeVert is also giving you double digit points. Kevin Love is also giving you double digit points, and Cedi Osman is also giving you double digit points. Now, does that happen every single night? No, of course not. Are there nights where Isaac Okoro has double digit points and other players don't? Yes, and often than not, I don't think we win those games, but still, it's like you got to know what these guys offer and what they don't. And Isaac
Right.
Okoro offers defense and not much else. So hustle, I
Yeah.
guess. I mean, I consider defense a hustle side of the game, though. So
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you're saying. Honestly, just with people
a rough.
down, it's like you're looking for more. You really are. Like Levert
We're
not
really
being
just
out
looking
there,
for. We're just really looking for Karras to be available, though. Like,
not being street clothes.
yeah, I just don't know what to like. Listen, whether you like him, whether you like the trade, whether you didn't like the trade, or just the idea of going out there and getting him, it's just been so upsetting because we knew that was a part of his resume. Is he's been hurt, he's been injury prone, and we got him at the end of the All Star break, or right next to the end
Hmm.
of the All
And he
Star
got
break.
hurt. Didn't even get hurt in a game. Like
The
that's
whole
the annoying part.
the whole reason we went out to go get him was so that we could have someone come off the bench and be the consistent double digit guy in and night out with Kevin Love and Cedi Osman also hopefully providing a double digit performance every now and then. And it's just the complete opposite of what we've had. And we're getting to the point where we're look at the standings right now. I don't know how the Raptors are
It's gonna
doing,
be
but
we're
again,
gonna be in sixth because we have games on Toronto, but
right.
playing Chicago tomorrow, like the Heat's the number one seed. Like we're not expecting to like full strength beat them in Miami. So we would have liked to play more competitive, and it's a good sign that with everyone out that we're still, disappointed in a loss like this.
Yeah,
But really, this is the thing, and not to harp on a Coral for the whole thing, but
right.
it's like I've been pounding the table that this is the case where if Levert is out, if Jared Allen's out, if Rondo's in and out of the lineup, and Okoro can't put it together with all of those minutes, what do people think is going to happen moving forward when Levert plays 35 minutes a night? If Colin Sexton comes back into the rotation, it's like Okoro's minutes cannot go up. So he's not getting any more looks. He's not getting shots at the basket. He's not going to improve with less minutes,
Right.
unless they're like addition by subtraction. But I don't really believe in that. We're going to do something interesting before we switch because we haven't done it in a while.
You're
But shout out to Turner, always hanging out in chat. We're going to add him. Turner's going to be our second or third mod. I don't know which one, but we'll throw
yeah.
Turner the mod. We haven't done that in a while. I said I was going to do that every stream. Total liar. Says the Raps are up right now. Of course they are. Okoro 15 points a game. Yeah, we'd probably win a lot of games if he averaged 15.
If he averaged 15 points a game,
and played 75% of like peak defense.
Wait a minute, Jeff. Did you see the tweet of like if Isaac Okoro actually hit like open shots?
Yeah, I liked it.
What the picture was.
I liked it.
It was the Golden State Warriors, but the Cavs would be if Isaac Okoro hit open shots. Like, listen, I can get
That's
down
me.
with the jokes of like he's not a good shooter or anything, and if he was, we'd probably be a lot better. But listen, every team is not perfect. Like you want more out of your players, and that's to be expected. But at the same time, like that meme had me dying because I was like,
that meme's accurate.
True. It's really accurate for what it would be. Oh my goodness. There it is. The Cavs of Okoro consistently hit threes.
But like I liked it, but I kind of like thought at the end, I was like, who's Iguodala? Like I would think
that's who Okoro is. It's like if Iguodala starts playing well, people are like, "Oh my god, he's really good at basketball." And then
he's
like
just Darius
like
is obviously Steph, and it's
right.
like you'd kind of hope that like Mobley is Durant and Jared Allen's Draymond Green,
right?
And Levert is Clay, or I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of a mess. It's funny though. It is funny, but We're 16 minutes in. Honestly, these streams are more hype when we win.
Really in 16 minutes?
Yeah,
Doesn't feel like it's been that long.
We're in, but we're not going to hang around. I forgot this was an 8 o'clock start. The 7 o'clock tilts are just way better for post game because it's like 9:30. People just hop right on. Like it's already almost 11 o'clock. But we came on here. We wanted to talk Cavs. So if you got Cavs things, throw them in the chat. We'll hit them. Yeah. But it also says in the title, we're here to talk a little bit of Browns football, which is interesting. Yeah. We usually don't mix them. We usually don't mix and match, but I think it's important. And, you know, me and Justin, we're famous for mobilizing right when a trade happens because in YouTube, you kind of have to. You got to be an early mover when it comes to YouTube to get in that algorithm to get some, you know, views, honestly, to get some exposure. So I'm going to go to this, Justin. We have some tweets to talk about.
Absolutely.
Number 1 from Kimberly A. Martin, blue check mark. The teams I've been told that have been interested in Deshaun Watson for a while and or were closely monitoring today's grand jury outcome. Panthers, the Saints, which I think the Saints is funny. Like I'm looking at context clues with a lot of these things. It's like, can the Saints even take his contract? Like, let's just talk contract. Can they even take it? Carolina makes sense. Seattle doesn't make any sense either. And it's like Pittsburgh obviously makes sense, but obviously we are included in the tweet or we wouldn't be talking about it. Before we go on again, hold on. I got another one for us because I think it's important for the context. Yeah. This is from Rick Stroud. It's a quote from Aaron Wilson. Cleveland Browns done a lot of work on Deshaun Watson lately and are now regarded as a wild card entry into this expanding trade market. And Rick Stroud quotes it and says, the Buccaneers have also done work as you would expect on Baker Mayfield from an evaluation standpoint should he become available for a trade. Justin, with everything that we've heard, they've met at the combine, they talked, Baker's agents, the front office, they're claiming that he's the guy moving forward. Just, I don't want to get, you know, it's a touchy subject.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll put that out there. It's a touchy subject. It's very difficult to talk about. It's really eggshells. All of Twitter has been eggshells, but from everything that's developed from the combine into the last 3 hours, where is your head at?
It's, oh my goodness, it's madly clouded, I guess. So in terms of the Baker stuff, I guess the only reason I could imagine the Bucs being like super linked to Baker is that obviously Tom Brady is out there now, but I believe that Tom Brady and Baker Mayfield had a very good relationship, have a very good relationship, and maybe there's, I don't know, some ideas coming from Tom about maybe going after Baker, but, you know, why wouldn't Tampa be in for Deshaun Watson or in the rumors for any of these other quarterbacks? That's, first of all, the one thing that comes to my mind. The second thing is like, hey, this is a rumor, of course, but is Baker, you know, willing to, because Jeff, you asked me this earlier, is there a sign and trade? And a lot of the problem with wanting to trade Baker, if it's not to, or not in part with the Deshaun Watson trade, is that he's on a 1 year. He's on the prove it deal, as we all know. And that makes it kind of cloudy for him to be traded anywhere but to Houston in the Watson trade. So that's really interesting. It's really, you know, and we've seen it, you know, Sam Darnold gets traded for a second round. All right, well, Baker's had a way better career than Sam Darnold. Could we get a first round and more, or just a first round pick for him and be able to use that instead of having to, you know, shop everything for the Deshaun Watson trade? A lot to like digest there. And obviously I'm ranting a little bit, but that's what I get out of that Bucs thing. I don't know what you're thinking though.
Well, we've seen it. We've seen this before recently, and this is the third tweet I have. The last one I'm going to show because I think it's the one to finish off with appropriately. From Michael Fabiano, which this is where Twitter gets weird. It's like Michael Fabiano is tweeting out a quote from Jason Lockenforo, and he said Jason Lockenforo says the Browns are eager to upgrade over Baker Mayfield. So that's a quote.
Right.
So that's something he said on this Sirius XM show.
Yeah.
48 hours ago, I heard he was the guy.
Right.
So I see where Twitter gets discredited in the sense where people don't believe a lot of the things they see on Twitter. But at the same time, me and you and everybody who's a Browns fan witnessed firsthand in like 12 to 24 hours with the Odell Beckham situation that something hit social media and it's a done deal ASAP. You know, it might not logistically, we didn't maybe release OBJ within, you know, as fast as the rumors were coming out, but it was like as soon as possible, they're going to release him. And then he was released.
Yeah, I think the tricky thing with Twitter and rumors is like I don't know who any of those guys are in that tweet. Maybe I'm
Right. There's just so
ignorant.
many of them. There's so many
Right.
people who's verified and insiders.
And here's the point to that is like, hey, I might not know who any of these people are, but there's a lot of them, and like we've seen on Twitter, people have tweeted it like where there is smoke, there is fire. Obviously,
yeah, more for you. Cleveland's been saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, where you see a lot of that information come out in any way, there's something that is there to be talked about, and obviously we don't have the inside on it, but we're doing our best to monitor it and talk about it. Moving to the Deshaun Watson thing, and his, we're not going to touch on the legal stuff and all that. We'll try to keep it strictly to football and everything. With everything that's going on with him, I believe it's still up in the air about whether or not he's going to be suspended for an amount of games. That is the trickiest part of any team that's going to go after him, and especially the Browns. Because when you think of the Browns, Jeff, you've talked about it with, thinking short term in terms of winning now and winning immediately. 6 games, maybe this is where you think Case Keenum might still be on the roster if
you read my mind.
Happens.
Yeah, you read my mind.
That would be the only thing where I'm like, hey, let's say the deal happens. Case Keenum becomes a necessity. Absolutely becomes a necessity, like he has been in certain scenarios and where he probably should have been a little bit more this past season. And so it certainly brings up an interesting point where, hey, we need a dude who can float the boat for 6 games of the season. And hopefully he doesn't get absolutely shell-shocked and gets, I'd have to pull up the roster or the schedule. We don't have the schedule right now, but the opponents.
We have opponents, though.
Right, like we get the Patriots, we get the Ravens, we get the Bengals, we get.
But going off of that, I think that's what's important because the more I think about it, and this is why it's so hard to make an opinion that is backed up by facts on a player like Baker. Like just to start with that, because this last year, obviously the division, we don't play great against Pittsburgh. We play pretty good against Baltimore, but we can't, we only get the job done once. We play our best football against Cincinnati, and then the second game doesn't mean anything. But think about outside of that. We play the Chargers, very good. We played Kansas City, of course, is always going to be competent. And then we played Arizona, probably the hottest team in the league when we played them was Arizona. Yeah. We played New England. Probably the hottest team in the league when we played New England was New England. And then we played Green Bay. It was probably the hottest team in the league when we played Green Bay. So it was like 3 different parts of the season. There's no way this year's the schedule is harder. There's no way. So it's like I see what you're saying with Keenum, and I there's a lot going on. I would hate to – I think that it's so tricky between everything going on with – if you want to move on from Baker, if they're actually interested in trading for Deshaun Watson, plus the free agency and the draft, it's like we talk about this all the time. Is too many options like a bad thing? It's like, do you really want to sell number 13 this year because you could get like the best wide receiver in Browns like history? Maybe, like you never know. Like if you pick the right guy, so it's one of those things for me.
Yeah, what the hard part about the Deshaun Watson stuff is to me. And just being linked to the Browns is the fact that with everything that's going on with him, he's a great player. He's linked to Seattle, which is my point of why didn't we hear anything about the Browns for Russell Wilson? not even an inkling, not even, and granted, he gets traded to Denver, and that's the only thing that we hear. We didn't hear any other team mentioned in a Deshaun Watson possibility trade or whatnot. Not that I know of, at least. And so, yeah, that happens. Carson Wentz gets dealt to the Commanders. Not that I want Carson Wentz, but again,
there's been quarterback mobility, and I know what you're
right.
saying. And I think the Denver situation was that Seattle had the offer sheet, and they called Russ, and they were like, "Will you?" Because I believe Russ had to waive a no trade, and Watson has to do the same thing somehow. Like, he has to go through the Texans organization, but it's all a mess from that sense. Where it's like maybe we called, and they talked to Russ, and he was like, "No."
Right. Yeah, and the only problem that I see with anyone looking at our roster right now is probably like the lack of like young wide receiver talent. I know Jarvis is still on the roster as of right now. We have talked about him airing his laundry about how the medical staff handled his injuries this year, but like, I don't know. I mean, if quarterbacks are doing their research on the Browns, they know that their job is, I don't want to say limited. Limited is not the right word, but they're not reliant on having to put up the numbers that Deshaun Watson had to put up the last year that he played. And, they played, they didn't win a lot of games, but he put up phenomenal numbers because he was probably down a lot of those games. But we've watched Deshaun Watson. The one thing that Deshaun Watson has always done really well is keep the ball in the hands of his players and not turn it over, which is always a big plus that needs to be talked about. Obviously, huge. But again, like in Kevin Stefanski's offense, as of right now, your number one wide receiver is Jarvis Landry. And to be fair, Jarvis Landry isn't a burner by any means. Is Donovan Peoples-Jones going to turn into a consistent wide receiver with, better quarterback play? And there's a lot of questions there. Is Deshaun Watson willing to, play for that team that's, not going to have a stud wide receiver like he had with DeAndre Hopkins or even Brandon Cooks? Who knows? But he's got a lot of different weapons. He's got a phenomenal O-line. We saw that checklist of like
that's what was weirding me out too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, offensive line, coaching, and a good defense. He's like, he must, and if
the Browns are like one of the rare teams that kind of fits into that, though, that needs the quarterback. That's why I thought it was weird, especially because I saw.
Well, you look at the teams on that list, and you're going like Seattle. Well, what's going on there? They've never had a good offensive line.
Yeah.
The Saints. Well, who knows? Like what's
good
going
coaching?
On.
They're gonna have a rookie coach. Like exactly.
The Panthers. They don't have anything. They're still a young team with a relatively young coach, and then.
It's like the Browns had the best
Pittsburgh was in
line.
there, but they're not supposed to be in there.
Yeah, Pittsburgh wasn't interested. And then I'm seeing reports where he wants to play somewhere warm. So it's like Miami's the front runner. There's so many things going on.
Yeah.
It really is a big mess. And this all comes back to, I think, what my biggest issue was and why my Baker Mayfield comp, and to this day, and I'm gonna go on this little tangent, and then I'm gonna ask you one more question, and then we can wrap it up. My Baker Mayfield comp to this day is Tony Romo, because you see these teams like Washington, they're very certain Taylor Heineke isn't their future. You see these teams like New Orleans, who might want to move for a quarterback. You saw Denver with Teddy Bridgewater. That's not the future. There's a decent chance Baker Mayfield could be the future of the franchise for us. His performance over in his resume being so middle of the road is actually the issue, because it's like if we had our backs up against the wall, dire straits, I think that this would be 75, 80% chance. Just in general, we would have went out and got somebody else. We might be drafting somebody in the first round. So like Seattle, if they don't move for a quarterback, they're probably taking someone in the first round this year, or in the second round if Ritter or somebody slips. But it's like just one of those things where we don't have a whole lot of mobility, and Andrew Berry doesn't have a whole lot of leverage because it could be damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you move on, if you trade for Watson, he gets a suspension, he gets hit by the league or whatever, the legal issue or the civil issues. Who knows? There's still a lot. This was just one step of it, but it's a mess. So if you want to comment on that, that's good too. But I want to put you on the spot real quick.
Yeah,
Are
absolutely.
you on board, yes or no, for Amari Cooper?
Ooh, see, that's another thing. Is it gonna be through a trade? Is it gonna be through signing him?
Yep.
The trade is definitely straight up the most viable option.
I would love to trade for him. I think he's going to want more money in free agency.
Oh my God, 20 million
from us though, or he's going to be it's going to be similar. People are like, oh, he might restructure. Like he's not going to restructure with us.
Yeah, I would trade hopefully Andrew Berry can swing it. You trade a 4th round pick and Jarvis Landry for him, and that's you swap the contract. You end up paying almost $4 million more. Well, I mean
I just think he's on the outs because they have so many wide receivers. So it's like, what is Jerry Jones going to do?
Right. And I mean, maybe they want to get rid of all the money, but at the same time, being able to get rid of a little bit of the money and also get another, just a player that won't be as demanding as Amari Cooper. He'll be underneath CD Lamb and maybe even Michael Gallup, but it's tough. It's really, I mean, I would, yes, 1,000%. I'd be in it. He'd clearly be the number one price. He'd be the number one wide receiver. I mean, 20 million. You're looking at Mike Williams, who is going to be the number 2 wide receiver in with the Chargers behind Keenan Allen. Still is getting paid 20 million. So you're going to pay 20 million for a clear-cut wide receiver 1, which I think would be a phenomenal deal if you can swing it.
I think this is before we hop off because I think Turner brings up a good point here because we got the news today that Dearness has been tendered. So, Justin, do you want to go over that really quickly, what that means?
Yeah, the right of refusal is just hey, he likes Cleveland. We know he loves Cleveland. He's expressed it. So, say a team offers him $2 million, $3 million, whatever it is. We have the right to match that. Unfortunately, it's not that tender of a pick, like a 4th round pick, a 3rd round pick, 2nd round pick, whatnot. So, if any team really offers him money to he's not going to get starter money, but he could find his way to a backfield that, is like a Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. He could be the second guy in a
he could get like a Tony Pollard contract.
Right. And that would be, they'd let him walk. They'd just move John Kelly up, or I don't know, maybe go out and draft a running back. But unfortunately, Dearness, I don't know. I wish him to be back on this roster because you never know with injuries, but at the end of the day, I don't think we would pay Dearness just because the money situation right now is super murky. We have to go out and get some D linemen. We need to work on the wide receiving room, and who knows, a lot of things can play into a lot of money. We've seen guys just get absolutely pissed off. Landon Collins from the Commanders or the Commanders. Yeah.
Even Bobby Wagner too. They just got rid of him.
Yeah. They're hey, we took pay cuts, and they asked for even more pay cuts. It's the Saints had to do it last year where they asked people, please take pay cuts, please do this. They made the super weird contracts for Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. It's hey, money's a tricky thing, even with the salary cap going up. So you never know.
I think I'm optimistic about the tender of Dearness because it gives us leverage if we wanted to go do a splash move. Because if Dearness, let's just say Dearness gets offered, $2 or $3 million, and Andrew Berry is very close on the brink of a trade, and maybe that trade involves a Kareem Hunt instead of us sending a draft pick. You pull the trigger on sending Kareem out, and you match Dearness's offer. You probably actually save a little bit of money that way, and you actually get to keep maybe a second or a third round pick equivalent to what a team might be looking to get out of Kareem Hunt maybe for 3 or 4 more years, one more contract, being the lead back like he was in Kansas City for a team who's really, down bad in the backfield. But I think we covered an adequate amount of information there. I know it was half Cavs, half Browns. If you're in the stream, we appreciate you, number one. Number two, make sure you throw us a like down below. Helps us in the YouTube algorithm. And if you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's free. It means the world to us. And you can always unsubscribe later if you can't stand hearing from us. Justin and I are going to be covering, everything closely as far as the Browns. Logan was out tonight, hanging out with people. We totally get it. Shout out to Logan. Kid does killer work all the way around. So we're not going to get everything.
Sure to hop on that. If anything happens Browns wise, these rumors are hot and heavy. So something could happen tomorrow.
We'll be the first to tell you.
Yeah, we'll be on here no matter what. So it's starting to heat up. Like I said, I think I told Jeff next week was supposed to get hot, but it looks like things are
starting early.
Starting early. So, the Russell Wilson trade I guess the Rodgers thing happened first, but quarterbacks are
one domino, and it's
all going to nutso town. So
we're not going to get everything right, but we're going to try to cover stuff at least accurately and give our opinions. If you have a disagreement, please put it down in the comments. If you think we got something wrong, if you want to discuss, if you want to hop on the show, please reach out, be courteous about it. Don't be a troll unless you're being a troll in a funny way, but that's going to be enough for us. Cavs with a disappointing loss to the Miami Heat. We're going to be at it again tomorrow at the Chicago Bulls. That should be absolutely terrible. I'm going to be a complete pessimist for that game, hoping that they prove us wrong. And I'm going to be on Twitter 24/7. Might not sleep tonight. You never know. Andrew Berry might be a night owl.
We'll have to have my ringer on just in case.
I hit your line. Well, we appreciate everyone. Before we see you again, make sure you let them know and make sure you check Twitter for Browns updates. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.